Okay, so I thought it might be helpful during this time when parents and grandparents and kids are being kept at home to know what teachers are doing and what is happening in the education realm, as all schools, as you know, have been closed down since Friday the 23rd. Am I getting that date right? That's not right. 23rd is today. Friday the 20th of March. So like I say, I will talk from my personal perspective, from my school's perspective, but again, every school is going to be different depending on how prepared they were for this pandemic, and I don't think anybody really was that prepared for this to happen. Now, my current school situation is that we were trained a week and a half before we were told that we were going to close the doors for the majority of kids, and we were trained on an online platform, and so were the students. And so we were taught how to basically work from home and teach the same content that we would be teaching, and how to do voiceovers, PowerPoints, and how to do videos should we wish to deliver it in a classroom style. So we were trained on this a very short period of time. I mean, a week and a half is not a very long time, so we're still getting our head around it. There's still some teething issues, but we were prepared more than some other schools have been, and so you might find yourself in the position where, yes, your student has this platform and is still being set work by teachers and still has communication with teachers and their fellow peers, or you might be in a situation where your school was not prepared for it and you now do not know what to do with your child. And so hopefully some of the tips that I cover in this video will help you, and you can make the best of this time. Could potentially be June, September before we have the schools back up and running in its normal capacity. So it's really important that the students are still educated during this time, and that you also have your sanity. So our school situation is we have 5 members of staff for the key workers kids. So you might have seen in the news there's a range of different headlines. I'll put some up now. And as you know, we still need to cater for key workers kids. The frontline workers were doctors and nurses, and those involved in food manufacturing, processing and distribution. They're also known as key workers. You've also got people in postal services, and also in public services such as the police, firefighters, social services, and then there's some teachers and a few others, but it is a limited range of people. And they basically said that one parent has to be a key worker for their child to be eligible to still coming to school. Now, there hasn't been much guidance as to what you should be doing with those students, so I think honestly schools are just making it up as they go along at this point until there's a little bit more clarity as to what that should look like. But I think it's probably just learning as normal, and then any students that are not in school are being set work in other ways in other schools. But for my school, it is on an online platform. It is work as usual, homeschooling online. So we have 5 members of staff in school right now. It's Monday. We have 1 member of SLT, senior leadership team. We have the head teacher. We have the teacher. We have a first aider and a receptionist. So those are the 5 members of staff that are in school at the moment, and they're sat with the few students that are children of key workers. So we're still having morning briefings through video. We're still having assemblies. The kids are having assemblies. We're also having department meetings, so it's pretty much as normal. The only difference is you're sat at home, and for the majority of people you're sat in your pajamas, quite comfortable, having a longer lie-in. Is it the same as being in school? Is it better than being at school? Not a chance. It's not. Nothing's going to beat that face-to-face contact. As we know, students pretty much teach each other through questioning in class, building on each other's knowledge. It's not going to be as good, but in the interim, I think it is actually quite a good system that's working so far. I'm going to give you 5 tips during this pandemic so that you can make sure that there is some kind of structure happening for your child. So like I said, many schools have petitioned teachers to set work as usual on online platforms. However, should your school not have done this, or maybe you don't have access to these materials, there are a few things that you can do. The internet in itself is a great resource. So I'm going to list a few websites and resources you can get a hold of for free to be able to educate your child in their normal timetabled lessons. So the first one is TES, T-E-S, and that's basically a platform that you can go on, find resources for a particular subject. So say they were doing physics period 1 on a Monday morning, you could type into TES physics. They should know what particular topic they're covering at the time, and then they can find resources, PowerPoint slides, quizzes, tests on that particular topic. It's a really good resource that teachers use on a day-to-day basis and share materials between schools to help to just keep learning creative and differentiated. There's also Facebook platforms for particular subjects, teachers. So I'm part of a platform on Facebook for the subject that I teach, and we share resources and discuss on there as well. So again, that's another platform that you could potentially join and get access to those teacher materials. So there's also another website called Seneca, S-E-N-E-C-A, and this is a platform where it feeds your child information and they would then take a test based on their reading or a quiz. This is a really good platform actually, because it means that it's complete ownership on the child. There's not much work that needs to be done by you. It's literally just create a login and then just get stuck into the subject that you're studying. So Seneca is a great platform. You can always go direct to the exam board. So if you know the exam board that your child is studying with, there's not that much difference between them. You can go onto the exam board website, and again, there's a resources tab where you can find exam style questions. And then there's always the quiz sites such as Kahoot, Quizzes and Quizlet, but there's many more that I'm sure you can find on the internet too. And failing all of that, you can go old school and go and buy a textbook from an online retailer or in the shops, if they're still open, that your child could use, because they usually partner up with a study guide. So again, you might have seen in the news that year 11s are not going to be sitting exams come May-June period, which means that teachers are having to make estimates based on mock exams, previous assessments and coursework to give them a grade that they can then use come September for when they go off to college and university. Does this mean they should stop learning? Not at all. They need to continue on with the normal structure. There is talk that they will have an opportunity to resit this in September or maybe next summer, but again, it's too early to tell. Those talks are still happening, and until we get this information, it has to be business as usual. So currently what I'm doing on my online platform with my year 11 classes is I'm setting timed exam questions based on what I know they've learned in lesson. I had a bit of a hunch that this is going to happen, so I did do a full mock with them, so I know kind of where they're working up to. So anything I do from this point in terms of assessments is only going to make that picture more clear. So again, there is an option on the platform that we're using to set timed questions, and they then submit that exam question for marking. So here is what our SLT member, our senior leadership member, who is also head of year 11, has said on the topic of year 11s.
Need to be more engaged than ever before, because it's data that we can collect to help us make an informed and a professional judgment, but also that sixth form transition work is going to be so very important to giving them the skills they need to continue with their journey into post-16.
That pretty much says in a nutshell what we should be doing as teachers, continuing business as usual. I think during these times, especially in secondary, most parents start to think maths, English, science, what they studied in school. But it's really important that you still include the vocational subjects and have a little bit more of hands-on practical work involved as well, whether that's in crafts and art or drama, PE, going out in the garden, or maybe doing some baking if you can get hold of any flour. Really important that they maintain a similar structure than what they were getting in school. Social interaction is key. Now, this would be a time where students are no longer going out with their friends and socialising with the people in school, but more so with their parents and their grandparents, which is a benefit, but there still needs to be social interaction outside of that. And so again, online platforms such as Skype and Zoom and WhatsApp video are still really important in their downtime, that they come away from the computer, come away from their work and have a dedicated set time where they're actually able to be social. You could get very creative even in terms of playing games like Monopoly, which could potentially be done through a video conferencing platform. Would I recommend that they come over each other's houses? No, I don't think that's the best of ideas during this time. However, it is important to still have those conversations. Now, the majority of this advice is interchangeable between older children, secondary age children, and the younger children, more towards the primary side. But it's still really important that you're explaining exactly what's going on to your children. Younger children will find it more difficult to process this information. They don't quite understand what's going on and why all of a sudden they're not going to school and they're having to stay indoors. Hearing the news say at 5 p.m. every night that certain measures need to be put in place and that people should be keeping 2 meters away from each other, a child 2 meters away from their grandparents, they would find that quite difficult to process. They would probably think, well, what have I done wrong that I can no longer stand next to my grandma or my granddad? So we have to explain to them that it is uncertain times, certain things do need to be put in place, but at the same time reduce their amount of exposure to the news. I don't think it's a good idea that they watch all the news that you might watch every night, getting the updates, but that they have a general understanding of what's going on. Again, this could potentially last until September, their next academic term. Some of these students might not see their peers again because they'll be moving on to sixth form or colleges or whatever it might be for them. So it is quite hard to process, but just keep reassuring and make sure that that communication is happening. So hopefully these tips have been useful for you, and you can use some of this moving forward to prepare your child for what's to come. Again, I have no idea what's going to come of these talks amongst those that are in leadership, and I will keep you up to date should you wish for me to do that. So if you would like me to keep you updated with what I am being told as a teacher in a secondary school, then do let me know in the comments below and I'll be sure to do that. But until then, stay safe and rest assured it will be fine. Your schools are working hard to make sure that you are supported. So as more information is revealed to us, we'll be sure to reveal it to you. Okay guys, until the next video, see ya.